Russian President Vladimir Putin is in India for a two-day visit. The highly anticipated trip marks a pivotal chapter in Moscow-New Delhi ties. At 11 a.m. local time, Putin will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at Rashtrapati Bhavan, followed by a visit to Rajghat to pay homage to Mahatma Gandhi. He will then have bilateral talks with Prime Minister Modi at Hyderabad House, where they will discuss a wide range of topics like economic and military cooperation, trade, logistics and innovation. The Russian president will address media after the meeting and then attend India-Russia Business Forum with Prime Minister Modi. In the evening, Indian President Draupadi Murmu will host a state banquet in the Russian president's honor, post which he will depart from India. Putin arrived in New Delhi last evening, where he was welcomed by Prime Minister Modi. The two leaders shared a warm hug and departed in the same car. Prime Minister Modi gifted a Russian edition of Bhagavad Gita to Putin, calling teachings of the Gita an inspiration for millions across the world. During the visit, Putin and Modi are expected to discuss major projects like the second overhauling of the Sukhoi 30 fighter jets, equipping Indian fleet with the R-37 air-to-air missiles that can hit targets at up to more than 200 kilometers, along with the S-400 and 500 long-range and Verba very short-range air defense systems. The two sides are also likely to discuss developing the lighter variants of the missile, like the BrahMos NG, which can be fitted on all types of fighter aircraft of the Indian Air Force. These missiles will have a capability to hit targets at over 400 kilometers, while the longer-range versions of the missiles will engage targets at more than 3 times of the present capability. In view of the high-profile visit, security has been heightened at Rajghat and other places. Traffic restrictions and diversions have also been announced in the capital. Now, since 2000, Putin has visited India multiple times, and his last being in 2021, right before the start of the Ukraine war. Vladimir Putin is expected to depart New Delhi around 9:30 p.m. local time. And to help us put the latest developments in context, we are now being joined in the broadcast by our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal. We also have with us Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, former MEA Secretary, who is joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you both for joining us on the broadcast. Siddhant, first let me come to you. Walk us through the key takeaways so far and what should we be watching for through the day?
Well, it's going to be a packed day, but let me start by telling you where I'm standing. I'm standing just in front of the historic Hyderabad House. This is the place where both the leaders are going to meet at around 12 noon Indian Standard Time. Before that, we know that the welcome will happen at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. We also know that the Indian Prime Minister and the Russian President will not only hold the talks here but also have the press statements at this historic place. This has been a historic place not only in terms of the visiting dignitaries being hosted here. This was in fact built by the Nizam of Hyderabad. Of course, this is a place where in the past there have been foreign ministerial meeting as well. Of course, there is a lot of media frenzy. I'm surrounded by a lot of media personnel, both Indian and international, who are here to cover the visit. In fact, there's a large delegation of Russian media who's already here in India. Many of them who have been able to go inside the Hyderabad House. WION team, of course, will be also going into the Hyderabad House as well when the press statement happens. But let me tell you, this is a state visit, not only packed with outcomes in terms of the outcomes like facts and understandings in trade, in terms of shipping, in terms of agriculture, but also in terms of every element that a state visit has, which includes the ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the state banquet as well. But in terms of geopolitics, a big message, even as Donald Trump imposes tariffs on India, both India and Russia are expected to essentially up their economic engagement. There is expected to be an economic roadmap that focuses on bridging the trade deficit. We know that while trade has ballooned over $65 billion. The trade deficit is a concern for India because Russia is yet to import as much as India is importing from Russia. India has increased its purchase of discounted Russian oil since 2022.
Absolutely, Siddhant. And of course, while Russian oil remains the headliner, now I want to get Ambassador Wadhwa's take. So yesterday, Minister Piyush Goyal called Russia India's Sukh Dukh Ka Saathi, an all-weather partner. And according to you, in practical terms, what are the strategic domains where both sides are looking to make the most significant strides?
So traditionally, this relationship between India and Russia has been focused on defense and military ties. And of course, the economic side of it has not been doing so well. In the last year, we've seen, as your correspondent pointed out, a ballooning of the trade deficit precisely because of the increased Russian imports into India. So both sides are now looking to balance that trade as much as possible. And the economic roadmap will attempt to do that because there have been a number of delegations that have been exchanged in the recent past. And items have been identified which can help in doing so. For example, in pharmaceuticals, in fisheries, in seafood exports to the US, to the Russians, and also the fact that there are a number of textile companies which are willing to go into Russia now. The amount of investments which can be made into the fertilizer industry has yet to be seen. But the joint ventures in shipping, civil aviation investments from Russia into India, all these have been discussed in the recent past. So all this will help in trying to bridge this ballooning trade deficit between the two countries. And of course, the ongoing cooperation that India has in the nuclear side with Russia is also going to be taken forward. But the fact remains that there have to be new avenues which have to be found. Connectivity is given a boost to these new avenues and related industries which will spring up as a result of that new engagement. So both sides are hoping that this will be a new direction. And judging by the fact that there are as many as 10 intergovernmental agreements and 15 odd commercial agreements which are supposed to be signed during this visit, obviously this is a pointer to the heightened engagement between the two sides.
Absolutely, sir. And we know that India is managing its equations with Washington while reaffirming the weight of its partnership with Moscow. And the Modi-Putin camaraderie from last night's greeting to the earlier SCO optics. Now, does this reflect a broader shift towards a genuinely multipolar world, essentially shifting the axis of influence?
Look, as far as Russia is concerned, it's been talking about the necessity of shifting to a multipolar world for a number of years now, because what it has been consistently saying is that the rules of the game, so to speak, in international relations is being set by just a few handful of countries. And the world has changed since then because there are a number of other power centers which have emerged, especially the middling powers, which now yield a lot of influence around the world. So Russia has been saying that alternate structures have to be built in order to have a new world order. And for that issue, therefore, Russia has been trying to bolster the importance of BRICS and the SCO in this process. It is also, by the way, a strong supporter of the RIC grouping, which is not really taken up once again because of the fact that there has not been consensus on having that kind of a meeting once again. But I would say that the time is still quite turbulent, and in world politics, each of the major powers are realigning themselves with each other and with the rest of the world. So in this situation, the idea of a truly multipolar world, while we're inching towards that, is not really come with everyone hedging in the current circumstances.
Right, sir, and that we'd also like to get a take from our Assistant Editor of Foreign Affairs, Siddhant. Now, this visit, as Mr. Wadhwa has also just mentioned, is being framed as quite pivotal for a more multipolar world. Now, beyond the headliner, which we just discussed, the Russian oil, what are the other sectors that we expect key movement from today?
Well, one of the key sector that will be the outcome of this visit will be the mobility sector. A key pact will be signed that will allow Indians, skilled and semi-skilled Indians, to travel to Russia at a time when Russia faces the manpower crunch. Now remember, India has been signing such mobility pacts with several countries from Japan to Europe as India emphasizes on legal migration. We know that when it comes to India wants Indians to be part of the global workforce, and that is why the mobility pact that will be announced today will be cornerstone of this entire two-day tightly packed visit of the Russian president, his first since 2021. Now essentially this visit is significant, as you pointed out, in terms of multipolar world order. We know that the world is fractured by crisis, whether it's Donald Trump's tariffs, whether it is the issue of terrorism, whether it is the reform of the United Nations Security Council. And for India, this partnership with the Russians have been a factor of stability, whether it is the Cold War era, the unipolar era, or whether it is the current multipolar era. For India, this visit is important for its strategic autonomy, a message to the entire global community. For Russia, every handshake here in New Delhi shows that it has friends at high places, and it is reaching out to global giants and Asian giants like India and China for more trade and political relationship.
Right, Siddhant, thank you so much for getting us all those details. Now, coming back to Ambassador Wadhwa, we know that Putin's visit comes just days before a US trade delegation which will land in New Delhi soon. Now, can this sequencing influence the tone of the talks in any way?
So I think we have to see these two processes in their own light. Of course, if you look at the broader geopolitics, Putin's visit to India will be noticed all over the world, especially in the United States and in the Western capitals. But as far as the trade negotiations are concerned, they are proceeding on their own pace and at the requirements which are there from both sides. So both sides need to determine what is the bottom line at which they can settle. And that is what is taking some time now for these negotiations on the BTA between the USA and India. I don't think we can look at this visit as influencing what is going to happen in those talks entirely. But of course, it will be at the back of the mind of US negotiators that a visit of this nature has taken place just before they land in Delhi. I hope certainly that this influences them in a better manner, in the sense that they come to realize that India has options, that India is not an isolated country. It keeps up relationships with the countries around the world, especially dependable partners. And this is what India has been doing all along consistently.
Right, sir. Very valid. Thank you so much for joining us in the broadcast and sharing your valuable perspective with us.
Thank you.